Greetings, citizens from the rolling hills of the bluegrass. I wanted to start a little series that I'm calling Gatekeepers. And there are many people who stand in the way of others in order to, as they pass by, to get a little bit of what they've got going on. This could be money, this could be social clout, it could be anything, but it's the idea that it's someone who stands in the way. The gatekeeper, what is that? That's the castle, right? The person who stands up on the parapet and allows people to enter the castle and make sure that the flow of goods and services are moving in and out. And that's exactly where the banks stand at this point. They've always been there, outside of the small rural villages that exchange through, simple barter. When it comes to any kind of currency movement, the banks are there. That's just how the whole system is set up. But now, in the 21st century, we have this interesting idea of the cryptocurrency, the open currency. And the banks don't know how to handle this because they've not had to handle this, especially in the United States, since about and around the late 1800s. You have the idea of the small local bank or the locality or the county or the state banks where they issued their own currencies. And if you traveled from one state to the next, you might have to exchange all of your bills for this currency. Now, I'm in Texas, and I go to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma uses a different currency. So now I've got to trade all of my Texas money for this Oklahoma money. And what exactly does that look like in the 21st century? What exactly is that going to be if, let's say, that the petrodollar, the US dollar bill, is finally overthrown, I guess is a word that could be used. Because all money is trust. That's all a currency is. It's the trust that I can take this coin, this piece of cotton or this piece of paper. I can take this that represents my time somewhere in the economy, and I can go somewhere else in the economy and say, here this is, I would like the goods, I would like the services that you provide in exchange for this, which represents me doing work somewhere else. That's all it is. And the moment that the trust ends in a currency, it's done. Absolutely done. The idea of the Confederate dollar being used to paper people's walls, the Deutschmark or the Reichsmark being used to having to use wheelbarrows to purchase simple day-to-day goods, and you needed wheelbarrows of this kind of money, this currency, to purchase those things. The moment that happens, it's over. And it's very easy. We almost assume that it will never happen because we've been on top for so long, and that's the reason why the British had their issues after World War II, because the pound sterling had been the currency of the world, and then all of a sudden it wasn't because they were bankrupt from fighting World War II. And all along the way, the banks are standing there, waiting to get their piece. They're a business. I understand they need to make money too, but they, in the 21st century, are hindering economic movement. And it comes down to something that I call the $1 million principle, especially with this kind of medium where we sit and we make videos, right? And we talk to people without any of the major media in the way, and they too will get a an episode on gatekeeping. You have the ability to go directly to your audience without anyone standing in your way. Well, if the other platform, the other website says that your content is okay, because then they also are a gatekeeper now, trying to stop you from being able to get your message out, to talk to people. But this even goes into regular retail, physical medium retail. The fees that banks charge on transactions are siphoning economic power away from everyone. And the $1 million principle comes from this. Can you get 1 million people to give you $1? $1. No more, no less, just one. And if you can, then you've achieved something that most businesses only dream of. Do you produce something that people are willing to give you $1 for? And that's it. And the banks stand in the way of this because of those fees per transaction that they charge, to making small amounts of money almost worthless to exchange in. There's 7 billion people on the planet, each one of them representing a various amount of currency in circulation. Each one of them potentially being another engine to further economic growth. But because the banks stand there and say, give me 25 cents out of every dollar, that dollar actually needs to be like $3, which totally negates the $1 million principle. Because peer-to-peer sharing, and it's not just in, Napster style sharing of music, but it's also of books, of anything, really anything. Can you produce something that people will give you $1 for? And then you get as many people as you can to give you that dollar. And you don't need all of the money. You don't need all of the money in the world. You can pursue it. You can go for it. You're a free person. Do as you wish. But in the grand scheme of things, you do not need all of it. And there are markets that are opening up all over the world. The moment that India really comes online, when you really get the Indian subcontinent moving economically, and all of those people can be lifted out of poverty, that's another billion right there of potential people. And it's symbolized by this image right here. This is a page full of ones. And on your average Word document, there's 3,652 ones on a single page. And this is just a visual representation of what that would look like. Those of you who are working now or looking to work, this page right here represents it. If that was 3,652 people, individuals, and they all gave you $1 right now, and then did that for 12 months, that's something very significant. And you're just looking at 3,000 people. Now expand that out to a country the size of the United States, with 340 such million people. 1 million out of 300. then expand it out further. 1 million out of 7 billion people. But the banks stand in the way because they take out such a large chunk of every single dollar that you make, that you potentially make. They get a portion because of the transaction fees. And that's why something like these cryptocurrencies, why even countries are trying to come up with their own cryptocurrencies. They have pilot programs going on because it does an in-round of through the banks, because the banks can be replaced by algorithms. They can be replaced by computers. The whole institution can be replaced by computers. And that's what a lot of the gatekeepers are. They're Luddites. Their institution is being threatened. And so they try to come up with other means of making money, which is the point of a business. I'm not saying banks are evil, but I'm saying they're getting in the way. And this is exactly where one of the big leaps in the 21st century is going to come, is whenever we finally get away from the banks. When we get away from them being the ones who dictate how commerce flows. We get away from the banks, and we can free people to pursue their own interests, to support those that they want to support. But it's only when we get rid of the gatekeepers.